Question 2. Mind needs to be negated for ascending of the Udana prana or life force, but in the horizontal plane the mind must be full of awareness. This pendulum swinging of mind between unawareness required in ascending for vertical travel and full awareness needed for worldly activities creates misery to sadhaka living in the horizontal plane. What then must he do? What is the remedy to deal with this critical situation? Answer. This is a very practical problem for a spiritual aspirant or sadhaka following the real divine path while engaged in the worldly activities living in the social environment. In general, the masses don't know about such problems. Only a few those who could make spiritual progress in the divine path of self-realization have to face such situations very critically in the social dealings and in all worldly activities. Such people believe in others without understanding their selfish motives. On their face values and on their words. They trust them and finally suffer to a major extent because the worldly people do not believe in ethics and values of dealings and their own words. Finally, worldly people easily and very frequently can deceive a divine person, and they have to suffer miserably both inwardly and outwardly. Consequently, spiritual persons blame themselves and their fate and take all miseries as their prarabdha. This happens because they act without awareness, as if mind has ceased to be there for worldly affairs, and is transcended most of the time, and is merged in soul for upward journey toward supernal. They act without using their mind fully while dealing with the worldly people, and act without complete awareness on the horizontal plane as if they are on the skyward journey. On the contrary, worldly people dealing with horizontal plane activities don't believe anybody unless they completely verify every minute details of what the other party is saying. Still, even if they are trapped, they have full capacity to fight and win over the opponents because of the fact that all such people belong to the same category and are aware of all tactics. Whereas spiritual personality suffers within himself very miserably since spiritual path does not allow him to fight unduly. He wants to win the self and his own committed mistakes by his silence, compassion and patience, assuming all this is happening as per the God's wish. A spiritual person sometimes lives in agony even to handle his own miseries. Being spiritual and his cultivated calmness do not allow him to react. His mind acts bilaterally. His mind starts fighting with his own mind. He loses the inbuilt mental calmness that he has cultivated by long spiritual efforts. Nobody is there to help him. His own mind plays a dual game with him when he remembers all the episodes or happenings. He blames himself and thinks, why did he act like this? He criticizes himself as if he is the biggest fool on the earth. He thinks in duality that he could have acted otherwise. He sometimes blames himself for being spiritual that had made him weak by not even reacting to such critical situations. I-ness, its-ness, my-ness, all stand against him to justify his mistakes. He admits mentally his mistakes, but at the same time consider all this as God's wish, since he feels otherwise it could have happened even worse, if he would have acted in a different way before giving the said commitment. However, his subtle ego reminds him again and again through his subconscious mind and causes him mental agony. This is because of the fact that it is being taken up as bilateral stand by his mind alone. He tries to suppress the subtle ego mentally but remembers again and again and goes on suffering inside pretending to be silent inside. On the other hand, the worldly person suffers only once by his blunted ego, whereas a spiritual person suffers frequently till its effect is subsided. The subtle ego breeds inspiritually. A divine person gets disturbed emotionally, psychologically, and finally physically at times. His breath pattern gets disturbed, his blood circulation gets disturbed with time if the disturbances are not subsided. His normal spiritual activities get topsy-turvy. His subconsciousness is the worst part of this bleeding ground. He may fall physically and mentally sick with this agony of stress, since he cannot blame anybody except himself. His own mind acts as the separate pole for himself. His mind thinks in duality. He suffers as he remembers. On the contrary, worldly person's mind under these conditions acts entirely on single pole, and he acts firmly with the decisions he has taken. No duality of any kind exists in his thoughts. The spiritual person consciously acts with positive attitudes, but his subconscious mind acts with negative attitudes. There is severe conflict between the subconscious and conscious mind. His emotions and intellect have severe conflict beyond recognition within his own mind, and his harmony of the mind gets completely disturbed. His inner mental agony cannot be described by the words. However, outwardly he may able to maintain tranquility. Under such conditions of agony prevailing in the mind, the following spiritual techniques may help him. But the help will be temporary only. These techniques temporarily break the connection of the conscious mind from the subconscious mind. Memories of the past will subside from the mind, but with lapse of time again the old memories will put their shadows on the mind, and again suffering continues. Anyway, there is no other remedial measures except to follow the given techniques. Shunyaka or void method. This technique teaches to create void in the system by forcefully vacating the complete breath from the lungs or stomach, etc. This leads to an increase of fresh energy inside that dilutes the effect of the memories of the subconscious mind. Long inhalation and exhalation of breath. This technique creates shunyaka in the lungs and vitalizes the complete system with fresh divine energy of the breath. This also helps to break the linkage of the subconscious mind with the conscious mind. To remove instantaneously stored breath in head. This is the part of Kriya Yoga, which gives strength to the mind by removing the blocked impure air from the head and rejuvenates the nerves of the head with fresh energy. Bringing the eyebrows closer by closing eyes. By this technique, the stored thoughts disappear from the mind by the pressure at the Agya chakra when the eyebrows are brought closer by force with the closed eyes. All the above techniques help to establish calmness and trance quality temporarily with time by repeating as and when required. With these techniques the thoughts of the subconscious mind get subsided and the mind gradually becomes more spiritual and stronger and takes all the agony with calmness without irritation. The spiritual aspirant when in trouble must psychologically try to enjoy agony, considering this as the minimum agony that the Almighty has bestowed on him, being compassionate to him to uplift him and teach him a lesson to be careful in future. All the above suffering is because of the X factor by the Almighty. This is probably the prarabdha and could not be avoided. There is no permanent remedy except to take it with patience, showing gratitude towards the Almighty. Probably that is the reason why the spiritual man just agrees without much thinking by mind and giving any thought to the various issues. Maybe Maya, the Brahma, has withdrawn intellect and mind at that instance to make the one to suffer to refine him, to teach him more in due course. Basically, thought of the past disturbs through memory to the spiritual person when he is in misery. He at times thinks about the reason and tries to justify, and the conflict starts on the mental level. All reactions and actions get stuck in his mind as duality, and the conflicts continue in the mind. Spiritual mind wants to find God with the presence of the body. However, it is just not feasible. Since the body is so far there, breath exists. In the presence of breath, the spirit cannot prevail. So, all decisions taken by a spiritual person being in a physical form, whether he is aware or not aware of, cannot be always correct. Because the decision is taken being in Maya, that is in the presence of breath, being in the physical form. These may be right or wrong depending on breath pattern. If a spiritual person takes a crucial decision in samadhi state, when breath is ceased, the decision cannot create any misery in life. Any crucial decision needs to be taken with intuition and not on the mental plane with logics, desires and attachments. Such decisions will be fatal and may prove to be wrong in due course if taken on the mental plane without intuition. This is because Srishti or the world is imperfect. Human life is itself imperfect. Only a few seconds in samadhi, when no role is played by mind and awareness, are the real useful moments of life. Any crucial decisions of life should be taken only after such a state of samadhi to avoid miseries of future. Otherwise, the incumbent of memory will disturb the thoughts if incorrect decisions have been made. If decisions by conscious efforts, intentionally or with emotions, are taken in the nirha state, in a state of Vairagya or non-attachment, then only the decision will be selfless and correct. Briefly highlighting, the decision must be taken in the state of manasanyasa, Nir Mohta and Chid Vibhava state, then only it will be the right decision of life, otherwise it might be troublesome and painful throughout the life. In short, the mind cannot negate the negative capabilities of totality. With mind there cannot always be all positive thoughts, since the food of the mind is breath. The birth itself is a symbol of imperfection in all individuals, since without breath the birth is not a reality. Death is a suspension of birth, the breath, and it is the only liberation, the cessation of breath. We all live in Maya and all our decisions are taken in Maya. Moreover, Maya is a part of Brahma. So, one must worship Maya, and by propitiating Maya, we can make the right decision, since in Samadhi there is no mind, no thinking, and there cannot be any wrong decision. So, the correct decision one can take in this world is by worshipping Maya, by the Maya and not being out of Maya. all decisions must be taken considering Maya or illusion, since everything is in transit, and it should not create misery in one's mind. Furthermore, Maya is Jagdishwari and awareness is the manifestation of Maya. All worldly or material-related decisions must be taken in full consciousness or awareness only. Decisions taken with unawareness even by a divine spiritual person will be fatal, since we are 99% Maya in a horizontal worldly plane and only 1% in the soul. To make the correct decision in 1% state in the soul during decision-making is not practically feasible, so decisions must not be taken in an unaware stage. In addition, Maya is Bhagavad Vilas, and mostly everything is the wish of Maya. Also, Aham as an individual is Maya. Sadashiva with the help of Maya has created the cosmos, so all worldly decisions are taken in Maya. Without the influence of Maya, decisions cannot be taken. So, decisions must be taken with full awareness in all respects to avoid further misery. But once taken, even in Maya, prayers in Kutastha Chaitanya and manifestation of spirituality have full capability to rectify the wrong decision and correct them by the wish of Almighty, since Maya is the part of Almighty. But one has to suffer till the effect of Maya is rectified by the grace of Almighty. In nutshell, a divine person must bear all sufferings taking as God's will, and consider that the sufferings have come to give him to enrich him with more inside refinement, to uplift him and enlighten him. Basically, the Almighty is the Karta or doer, whether one does with awareness or without awareness. Both awareness and non-awareness are the two different poles of the same known and unknown energies. Every activity happens by his wish only. This is the real aspect and perspective of self-realization that is beyond awareness and non-awareness. Finally, as a spiritual aspirant or sadhak progresses in the upward spiritual path, Vairagya or dispassion is gradually developed in his mind. It is further manifested as he progresses in the spiritual path. With time, he develops the capability to ride over the worldly miseries and overcomes all the suffering by the cultivated dissipation in his attitude to face the worldly people. Maya or illusion does not disturb him when Vairagya or dispassion rules the mental kingdom. Finally, for him all worldly issues or problems lose meaning, and he conquers all his sufferings without any feeling. He starts living face to face with reality.